everybody. I don't know if you guys are watching here. Can you guys hear me okay? Let's see. Mute. Hi. Let's see if this is. Hey, how's it going, Raphael? Hey, SML. Okay, here we go. Very busy day. Sorry, we are. Let me see. Hold on real fast. Okay, we're getting ready to chat with Andrew Blankstein. He is, in my opinion, the best investigative reporter we have here at NBC. But we're going to be talking about the latest in the Rob Reiner, Michelle Reiner double murder investigation that we're looking at here. It just came from Brentwood, where people are still trying to wrap their heads around the horrible news that happened over the weekend. We don't know if it was Sunday. We don't know if it was Saturday. There's still a lot of questions on when the actual murders took place. But the son of Rob and Michelle, Nick, he is now in custody. He is in jail. And we're going to try to piece together what may have happened, including some reporting on a party that they were at Conan O'Brien's house the night before. So that's all coming up here. Lisa should be joining in just a bit. Raphael, we hear you. Perfect. Okay. All right. So in the meantime, right now we're just reviewing all this stuff. I just got into the studio, so kind of check up some stuff here. And then if you're just tuning in, it is 4:55 on the West Coast. That means it's 7:55 on the East Coast. This is Stay Tuned Now. We are NBC News Now. If you're watching this on like TikTok or on YouTube and you're like, what is this? Does this look like a news show? It is a news show. This is called Stay Tuned Now, and we're on NBC News. And you can watch right here for free every single day. We are going to get to all the day's headlines, including what's happening here in Los Angeles right off the top, and hope you hang out with us for the next hour or so. And in the breaks, instead of the commercials, we'll be able to chat, and I've got the chat function up here. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about what's going on in Boston. There is so much news to cover today. There was a bombing threat that was foiled here in Los Angeles, thankfully. So the FBI made some announcements, and Andrew Blankstein and Liz Kreutz are going to be talking about that. And then we've got what's happening with the flooding in Morocco, Syria. Let's see, we've got the latest shooting, the latest on the shooting at Brown University. Let me just update this real fast. Now, police are saying that they're making steady progress. So far, there's no suspect in custody. There's a person of interest that they are looking into. Let's see here. All right, let's see where Lisa's at. All right. Do you know Anthony Geary or Geary? Do you know Anthony Geary? Okay.
And Laura, famous General Hospital.
Got it. Okay.
Episodes.
Yeah, Laura Weber. Okay. Anthony Geary, Nathaniel Howard, Brian Torres. Okay. It's crazy that they don't have anybody in custody in Rhode Island.
Sure is.
That's just so wild. And to go, I mean, how do you foster trust when you have somebody, then you have to release them, and then you say everything is under control? It's really, really tough.
Yeah, it's been a real whipsaw. And there were kids that were kind of in lockdown or in hiding for,
I know, yeah.
most of the day,
I couldn't imagine.
not longer.
I couldn't imagine. Bondi Beach. Do you say Bondi or Bondi?
Bondi.
Yeah.
I end up saying it like Bondi, but
but Bondi.
It is Bondi. And apologies for my voice from flying.
Oh yeah, I mean, the New York flights will do that.
Yep. I can hear you well. All right, great. Thank you so much.
I was off, hanging out with the kids.
Nice.
Thank goodness. Where was I on Friday? Thanks for noticing, though.
Well, 90 away, standing.
All right, 90 away. Here we go. And we're starting at B. Are we going to G?
Staying at B.
Staying at B. Okay. Got it. And we're breaking off the top?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, cool. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yep. Zoe Deschanel. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Okay. We're going to be going to this at the top of the show here.
1 minute.
Just some of the tributes that are pouring in. All right. Yes, Raphael, we're going to start our show with that. So that's coming up in just a bit. Just check something real quick. Let's see. So much news today. All right, we're about 40 seconds from the top of the show. And then we are live.
30.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this over here. That's Lisa right there, Lisa Crivelli, holding it down at 30 Rock. This will be the top of the show. And first we're going to be reporting
15.
what happened at that party with our colleague, Chloe Malas. Here we go.
7. 5. 4. 3.
Good evening, I'm Gotti Schwartz. Breaking tonight, new details in the deaths of Hollywood filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. Their 32-year-old son, Nick Reiner, is in custody. He's booked on suspicion of murdering his parents over the weekend in their Los Angeles, their Brentwood home. The timeline coming together in just the last few hours. NBC News sources say Nick was, quote, disruptive during a Christmas party at Conan O'Brien's house Saturday night. Behavior that was possibly witnessed by guests, including actor Bill Hader. On Sunday afternoon, Rob and Michelle Reiner were discovered dead with stab wounds in their Brentwood home. And just 6 hours later, their son was arrested. Rob Reiner has long been open about his son's battles with addiction and rehab. It was even a central theme explored by the two of them in a movie they made together called Being Charlie. That was a story that Nick co-wrote that drew from his life, which his father then directed.
You've had plenty of choices, Charlie. Rehab or jail, quite a wide selection there.
You're really gonna do this?
15.
Was that Charlie?
Uh-huh.
Well, where's he going?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know. He didn't tell me. He just stole a car and took off.
And that was nearly a decade ago. Rob Reiner later told the Today Show that collaborating with his son helped him understand some of his struggles. Here's that.
I mean, it's not a secret, but my son, Nick, who was one of the writers of the screenplay, had his problems with substance abuse, and he went through a number of rehab programs from the time he was 15 to 19. He's doing very good now. But what I didn't understand is the depth of what he was going through.
Again, that was all back in 2015, 2016. We're going to go back into the archives. We're going to play that full interview in just a minute. But first, tributes are pouring in tonight for the Hollywood icon and his wife. From a growing memorial at Rob Reiner's Walk of Fame star to a wave of celebrity posts, including an emotional message from Kevin Bacon, writing, "Today is a sad one. Thank you for everything, Rob. May you and Michelle rest in peace." And also posting this.
I'm not sure how to do this, but Rob Reiner gave me a job in A Few Good Men sometime in the 90s, I guess it was. And I was over the moon to get that job because people may or not know, but this is Spinal Tap is my all-time favorite movie. And when he called me, I was just so thrilled. But the making of that movie was one of the best experiences that I've ever had on a set.
We're going to get more into the life and legacy of Rob Reiner coming up. But first, we start with new reporting from NBC's Chloe Malas about that Christmas party outburst with celebrity witnesses. Hey there, Chloe.
Gotti, we're learning more details about the hours before the brutal murders of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. Two sources with knowledge of the situation tell NBC News that on Saturday night, Rob and Michelle took their son, Nick Reiner, to Conan O'Brien's very glitzy holiday party, and that there were a lot of celebrities, and it was a who's who of Hollywood there. And that this took place in Los Angeles, and that when they arrived, Rob Reiner, as one would do, was introducing his son to various guests and celebrities who were in attendance. And one of those that he introduced his son to was comedian and writer Bill Hader. And throughout the evening, those two sources say that Nick was acting disruptive, interrupting people's conversations, and that later in the night, he interrupted a conversation that Bill Hader was having with two celebrities that he was speaking with, and that Bill Hader gently asked him to leave that conversation because it was private, and that Nick allegedly stood there staring, refusing to leave, and that when he finally did, he stormed off, and that this was one of many things that caused a deeper conversation and issues with his parents that spilled over later into the evening and the following day, discussions around his mental health and how he was doing because his parents were so embarrassed, and this was all so public at Conan O'Brien's party. But, you know, Rob Reiner had been very open a decade ago in 2016 when he had a movie called Being Charlie based on his relationship with his son Nick and Nick's years-long battle with drugs and alcohol, heroin, homelessness, living on the streets, in and out of rehab centers, and that this was a moment where they were really finding common ground and coming together for this project. But we don't know what has happened over the last 10 years and if this relationship clearly became more fractured. But what we do know from these two sources that Nick was living on and off at his parents' Brentwood home. So obviously all of these details are unfolding. And like I had mentioned throughout the day during my coverage, I did speak to one of Rob Reiner's 4 children, Tracy Reiner, from his first marriage to Penny Marshall. And he adopted Tracy when she was just 2 years old. And she told me that she was struggling to find the words, that she was still in shock, but she did say, "I had the greatest family ever," and just a wonderful childhood. Gotti.
That's so heartbreaking. Chloe Malas, thank you so much. Let's bring in one of our top investigative reporters here at NBC, Andrew Blankstein. Hey, Andrew, what is the latest that you're hearing from LAPD right now?
I think, as we know from earlier today, following the arrest, they continue these kind of parallel investigations in terms of processing the Brentwood crime scene at the Reiner's home, but also trying to interview witnesses and giving the sense of what happened immediately leading up in the hours to this, but also trying to get a sense of the fuller arc over time. And so what you can expect and what we can expect in the coming days is the Los Angeles Police Department's Robbery Homicide Division is going to present a case to major crimes with the LA County District Attorney's Office, that by sometime Wednesday, that case will be filed, and the expectation is that Nick Reiner will appear in court for arraignment and some kind of plea. Sometimes that's subject to change, obviously, but it's certainly in the next 48 hours, that's what we can expect.
LAPD is notoriously tight-lipped when it comes to any type of investigation, let alone like a celebrity investigation. You're just talking about the witnesses. We're talking about witnesses that everybody at home most likely knows, right? Some of the people that were at Conan O'Brien's party.
That's right.
How is that going to factor into this case?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons they assign these cases to Robbery Homicide Division, high-profile celebrity cases. Over the decades, it's been that part of LAPD, the most experienced detectives in terms of putting these cases together. They work, obviously these high-profile cases, but also things where there were sensitivities. And I think what we can expect is, to your point, because some of these detectives not only have had experiences with higher-profile cases, they can kind of handle these investigations and these interviews. But again, you know, it's part of the processing the scene, what happened immediately leading up to this, but also in those hours before. Was there something that changed? Was there anything having to do with any drug relapse or other issues? And I think not only is that going to figure into kind of what kind of case we present, and I think people can expect that there's going to be some kind of, obviously, 2 counts of a potential murder charge here, but also whether they file what's called special circumstances. In a multiple murder, you can file a special circumstance on each count, which is essentially a sentencing enhancement. That under the last district attorney, George Gascon, they removed those. But Nathan Hochman, who was elected about a year ago, has kind of changed that stance. So they're potentially going to look at that as that, and then obviously what the defense is going to look like here. And it's very complicated because you have family involved in this as well, potentially, where the parents are dead and then the son is there, and how is that going to look? So we can expect some of that to kind of come out in the coming days in those complicated issues.
You've covered so many high-profile cases. There's something that's about to happen in Los Angeles. 2 things are going to happen. One, there's going to be news and rumor that comes out very, very quickly in a case like this. And on the other hand, it's going to take a very long time for the official word to come from investigators and to come from LAPD. One of the things that strikes people from outside of Los Angeles is, like, there are no charges even filed here.
That's right.
For the murder so far, right? Why is that?
Well, because initially you have what's called a booking charge. So police have probable cause for an arrest. They gather the evidence, and if they meet that threshold and they get a judge to sign off on a search warrant, then they would go forward, and that's what we saw. I mean, one of the things that last night, why the LAPD wasn't saying a lot is because they were looking for Nick Reiner. There are certain things immediately that a witness might say and put them in a certain direction. Obviously, that area, as you saw and you noted in your reporting, there's a lot of cameras in that area, so you can see somebody leaving the property. If it's him, you can then track a certain direction, but they didn't have him immediately in custody, and I think one of the things we also talked about is we don't have a specific time on the murder. That's going to, what we're talking about here is trying to build out a timeline and geographic movement, right? So as we talked about earlier as well, he was caught in another part of the city at about 9 p.m., but they still have to narrow that timeline into when they think as they are alleging that he killed his parents. So that's something that they're going to have to figure out. And I think a lot of people, as you said, there's a lot of armchair quarterbacks, especially with social media. And these things, sometimes they kind of wrap up quicker because of the help of technology and witnesses. Other times, excuse me, they take a much longer time to play out. But in this case, it was quick. I think one of the things that both of us saw last night, the LAPD kind of fell back on not giving a lot of detail, not immediately saying, it was Rob Reiner and his wife. And so I think part of that is also trying to be true to, collection of evidence, talking to witnesses that you're putting together that timeline. You have to be conscious of that, and all these things are going on at once. And you can't immediately go onto somebody's property, even everybody thinks the police should be there. You have to get a judge to sign a warrant.
Yeah. And so right now the big question mark is still, when did these murders take place? Sometime possibly Saturday night, sometime very early Sunday morning, or sometime before the 3:40-ish that they were found, right?
That's right. And that's why those interviews are going to be key, in addition with the cameras and everything else.
Andrew Blankstein, incredible reporting. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Scotty.
And NBC News law enforcement analyst Jim Cavanaugh also joins us. Jim, wanted to ask, in a case where the suspect is a close family member, no signs of forced entry, and then there's also this history of mental health issues, how does that impact the actual investigation, the questioning, the arrest?
Well, right, Gotti. Well, it's a domestic case, and police are very adept at dealing with domestic murder and domestic issues. Some things change, and some things don't. Forensics, basic police work, a bloody footprint, a bloody fingerprint, all the signs of violence at a double homicide that involved an edged weapon. are all still going to be there. The questioning, is a lot more familiar, a lot more delicate, because these are your parents that the detectives are asking you if you murdered, not some stranger you were trying to rob, or somebody you barely knew. So from that standpoint, there's a lot of different nuances to it. And you and Andrew are exactly right on the timeline. And this reporting about the party at Conan O'Brien's house is significant to the detectives, because we have this event there. We have some angst. Did he go to the party with his parents and then leave with his parents? Because that can tighten that timeline up pretty good. So Friday night, if he leaves the party with his parents, and they go home, then we know that the paramedics were called Saturday afternoon around 3:30. We don't know who called them, but that's about the time they were called. Well, the assault could have happened, in the middle of the night. It could have happened at 3 a.m. And from stab wounds, you can just expire from bleeding to death. You don't necessarily have to have a fatal wound immediately. So we don't know. We don't know how long before the paramedics were called that the assault occurred.
And it does sound like it was paramedics first, or the fire department doing welfare check or something like that, and then they called for backup at around 3:40 on Sunday. Speaking of the witnesses at that party, that is a big witness list. Are all of them going to be interviewed here? What does LAPD do with the witnesses that were at the party?
Yeah, you're going to interview all the witnesses at the party. You even want to interview the witness that says, I didn't see anything and I don't know anything. And you want to write that down. And I had many cases where I'd interview witnesses and they would tell me that. And, 3 years later at a trial, they show up as a witness for the defendant, trying to tell something else happened. And then the prosecutor would step up and say, well, but the morning after the bombing, you were interviewed by an ATF agent and you told them you didn't see anything. And now 3 years later, you're seeing things that help the defendant. So it's critical to get all of the witness statements down. And it's just going to be like people. I know there's famous people and celebrities, and they're in the industry that Mr. Reiner was in, but that's not going to matter to the detectives. It's just, what did you see? What did you hear? What did you notice? And write it down. You're just a witness. And that's just going to show maybe a precipitating event. And then if they can put the son in the car, Gotti, going back to the home, they'll know time there. And I think there's got to be some security cameras at this home.
Yeah.
It's a large home in Brentwood. I'm sure there are. So they could probably, know exactly what time they came in. And if an assault happened, what time the son left.
Yeah, Jim, I just came from down there, and not only are there going to be a lot of different cameras from that home, that entire neighborhood. This is Brentwood. This is one of the most affluent places in Los Angeles. The hedges are so high, and yet the security cameras on everybody's property, block after block after block, are pretty impressive. So we'll see a lot more information hopefully soon. Jim Cavanaugh, really appreciate your expertise. Thank you. Let's now go back to 2016. Just after Reiner's film, Being Charlie, was released, he made an appearance on the Today Show to talk about working with his son on that film. Take a look.
It is so different than anything else you've ever done, and getting the chance to work with your son on something that's so personal.
Well, it was very personal. It's not a secret, but my son, Nick, who was one of the writers of the screenplay, had his problems with substance abuse, and he went through a number of rehab programs from the time he was 15 to 19. He's doing very good now, but what I didn't understand is the depth of what he was going through. And the process of making this film not only forced me to see what he was experiencing, but I think it forced him to see what I went through and what his mother went through. And hopefully the film is a reflection of that. And, hopefully it'll be part of a dialogue. We're experiencing a lot of it's an epidemic now with drugs, the availability of drugs in the, in suburban communities, and it's on the campaign trail now. So hopefully this will be part of the dialogue.
And that's the thing. People can easily associate this with Hollywood or a privileged life. Hillary Clinton was in West Virginia. We learned yesterday the highest rate of overdoses in the United States happens in West Virginia.
Yeah, and this clearly there's no socioeconomic boundary to this. It touches everyone. And what we try to understand is that, and I think it's great what's happening in the criminal justice system. They're trying to decriminalize these things. You don't punish somebody for having a problem, you know. And the reason, well, but you see, that's interesting. That's what we have to start thinking about. The disease is not the addiction. The disease is the underlying issues that cause you to self-medicate with either alcohol or drugs or, you know, gambling, sex, whatever it is you do. That's an individual thing, and that has to be treated individually. I don't think it works in a cookie cutter kind of approach. I think you really have to.
Fascinating that Nick co-wrote this with a guy he met in rehab, right? So they really understand the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know they were working on it. I mean, they met each other. There's a scene in the movie where they have a talent show and the kid does a stand-up. And that was Nick's friend, Matt Alisafan, who did the stand-up, and they kind of hit it off. And then when they got out, they started writing. And at first it was like just a half-hour comedy of life in rehab. And I said, and they showed it to me, and I said, you know, it's funny, but I think it goes a little deeper than this, and I think if you're going to do justice to it, you got to bring the emotional part of it out, and then eventually it became this screenplay that we worked on.
I think it's going to be tremendously helpful for so many people to understand.
Hopefully, we have to not punish people who have problems. We have to help them, and I think we're going in that direction now. People are starting to recognize it because it's been given a national spotlight on the campaign trail.
Amen.
Yeah, so difficult to see that illuminating conversation way back in 2016. Meanwhile, President Trump today, he was stirring up controversy over his reaction to Reiner's death. Before Nick was named a suspect, the president made claims on Truth Social that the deaths of both Rob and Michelle Reiner were possibly related to Reiner's political activism. Police have not made that connection at this point. They have not provided any information about motive yet. And despite criticism, Trump then doubled down on the post earlier today with reporters in the Oval Office. NBC News White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor has more on that backlash.
Well, Gotti, as you said, President Trump has been linking the deaths of Rob and Michelle Reiner to their political activism, and he's been facing backlash for that. But when asked about this in the Oval Office today, President Trump doubled down on that assertion. Take a listen.
I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said he knew it was false. In fact, it's the exact opposite, that I was a friend of Russia, controlled by Russia. You know, it was the Russia hoax. He was one of the people behind it. I think he hurt himself in career-wise. He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country.
Now, despite that backlash, President Trump, again, not backing down. I want to read to you some of the posts because President Trump is really facing criticism from Republicans and Democrats for his online posts about these deaths. You have Representative Denver Ringelman, a Republican from Virginia, a representative serving in the House. He says, when a popular authority figure dehumanizes opponents and engages in othering, they strip away empathy, paving the way for violence. And then you also have Democrat Representative Jasmine Crockett talking to White House sources, and also in just listening to the president today, there is no sense that the president is going to be backing down from this. Gotti?
Yamiche, thank you. And as the investigation continues around the death of Rob Reiner and his wife, we want to take a look back to look at his career. Rob Reiner, his own father, Carl, was also a titan in the world of Hollywood and comedy. Rob grew up in the shadow of his father until he established himself as an actor in shows like All in the Family. Then he went on to direct those legendary movies and everything from fantasy to horror to coming of age. But it is the romantic comedy When Harry Met Sally and a particular story that truly defined who Reiner was. Take a listen to what he told Drew Barrymore earlier this year.
I made this movie because I had been married, and then for 10 years, I was single for 10 years. I'm making a mess out of my dating life. I'm in and out of relationships. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And that became the basis for When Harry Met Sally. So at the end, the original ending we had was that they didn't get together, because I didn't know how that was ever going to happen. And so at the end of the movie, we had it where they run into each other in the street, they talk, and then they walk in opposite directions. The camera pulls up. And then I meet the woman who I've now been married to for 36 years, Michelle, and we fall in love during the making of the movie.
Really?
Yes. And so I changed the ending. So that they get back together. They get together.
When you realize that you want to spend the rest of your life with someone, you want the rest of your life to start right now.
To start as soon as possible.
As soon as
That's
possible.
right.
Impossible not to smile at that. Let's bring in TV host and film critic Andrew Freund to talk a little bit more about Reiner's legacy. So, Andrew, I mean, it's just so nice to see that moment and to know that he is with his wife, Michelle. But horrific what happened to them. As we reflect on his legacy, though, how did he go from being the son of comedic great Carl to meathead on All in the Family to Misery to like The Princess Bride when Harry Met Sally? Like the range is really remarkable, right?
Yeah, and I mean, and like you said, you know, he was born into Hollywood royalty, and one of his first projects was, and I found this out researching, he wrote the pilot for Happy Days.
What?
He wrote the pilot for Happy Days with Gary Marshall, and from there, he kind of then got the role with Norman Lear, who was a family friend of theirs. Of course, Norman Lear produced All in the Family. He became Meathead, and then he decided to go behind the camera. So in '84, this is Spinal Tap, his first film. He basically created the mockumentary. Right. And then from there, you know, the film spun. When Harry Met Sally, The Princess Bride, my personal favorite, The American President, written by Aaron Sorkin. So the man had range. He was beloved in this town. It's a sad day, Gotti. It's a sad day.
And it wasn't just about the movies. I mean, he was giving back so much to the community. His passions for early childhood development, big ally for LGBTQ and the community there. I mean, how did he have time on his schedule for everything?
Yeah, you know, it was also partially the influence of Norman Lear. Norman Lear was a huge, obviously, proponent of democracy. That, you know, went down to Rob as well. And like you said, 2008, he was really partially responsible for overturning Prop 8, legalizing gay marriage here in the state of California, which then, of course, in 2015, it became legal at the federal level. And he and his wife were both unapologetic allies for the LGBTQ community. He spoke out for it. He just was really a proponent of equal rights for everybody.
It's so interesting to hear, you know, Norman Lear brought up, because you go to the neighborhood and people are like, yeah, no, Norman Lear used to live right across the street from their home. Yeah. I do want to ask, like, about his ability to span generations, right? He's got so many cultural touchstones. Stand By Me is a coming-of-age story for so many people that grew up in the 50s and 60s. Yeah. And then for, you know, younger people, it's like, oh, the New Girl. I know him from New Girl, right?
Of course, yeah.
Take us through how was that something that he purposefully did, or was that something that, you know, let's just call Rob and see if he'll be in this as well?
I think also, you know, growing up in the business, you know, he saw his father and Mel Brooks, and I just saw a story with him when he was 16. His father and Mel Brooks were going on the Ed Sullivan Show, and he pitched them a joke. So he just had his hand on the cultural zeitgeist throughout generations, and like you said, he played Zoe's father on New Girl. So he just had that kind of thing that you can't calculate. You know, they talk about the X Factor in this town. Rob Reiner had the X Factor. He was the epitome of the X Factor.
He had the X Factor in every genre he touched, on camera, off camera. I mean, it's going to be so difficult for the next few weeks, if not longer. But we do have those movies to revisit.
And he was a patriot. I mean, the guy fought for democracy, and I know that was one of the main pillars of what he wanted to do and what he accomplished, and he accomplished it.
Andrew Freund, thank you so much.
Thanks, Gotti.
And don't go anywhere. Up next, a foiled terror plot here in California. How the FBI prevented plans of an attack set for New Year's Eve. Plus, a manhunt underway for the person behind a shooting at Brown University. We're going to have a live report on that. So stay tuned. Happy Days, that's wild.
Isn't that like 1971?
I mean, that is wild. Yeah, I heard that Howard Stern, him talking about the him coming down when he was 16 and being like, hey, Why don't you guys try this out?
Yeah. I pitched him a joke.
Incredible. Thank you so much,
Sure.
man.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, what up, chat? All right, so now we've got Andrew Blankstein back in the studio. We've also got Liz Kreutz. Liz is here. We're going to talk about this foiled terror plot here in California. I don't know if you guys have plans on what you want to do with your family maybe on New Year. This definitely caught my attention because it's super, super sketchy. All right, how's your day? Rough day for so many people. Let's see. Okay. I am seeing what you guys are writing, and it is very interesting. Pilots of a happy day. Really? Let's see.
Yep. Thank you.
Huh. Interesting. It's something that we've been hearing across the board. We're starting in G. SML, of course. We try to see all the messages. Really, really appreciate you guys sharing how you feel about a lot of this stuff. All right, so we're coming back in 30 seconds right here, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. And do we have sound on this one as well?
Oh, yeah, we'll have 30.
30 seconds and then back to the desk?
Yep.
Okay. Good here?
Great. 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. We're following another huge story here in Los Angeles. Justice Department officials saying they stopped an alleged attack planned for New Year's Eve throughout the Los Angeles area. Now, 4 suspects with ties to an extremist group are in custody. Here's a press conference from a little bit earlier. Take a listen.
The defendants are all radical anti-government members of the Turtle Island Liberation Front, which, according to their own social media, is an anti-capitalist, anti-government movement that calls for their associates to rise up and fight back against capitalism. In November 2025, defendant Carroll created a detailed bombing plot to use explosive devices to attack 5 or more locations across Southern California on this upcoming New Year's Eve.
And joining us now is NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz and NBC News law enforcement reporter Andrew Blankstein. Once again, busy couple of days here. Liz, first off, what do we know about these planned attacks and where were they targeting?
Yeah, so what authorities have said is that these people were going to target 2 different U.S. companies at 5 different locations on New Year's Eve, and that they were planning to use backpacks with explosive devices in them that they were going to drop at these locations and have them all be detonated at the same time, midnight on New Year's Eve. Now, officials have not said the name of the companies that they were targeting. They just said that they were logistics companies, Amazon-like companies are what they were targeting.
Interesting. I mean, I've automatically thought it was going to be somewhere with huge crowds or something like that. Does it look like they wanted to disrupt infrastructure? Or were they looking to potentially hurt and maim a lot of people?
Well, actually, they're in the complaint. They were able to intercept some of the communications between members of this group. And one of the kind of ringleaders was talking to a member, and she said, yeah, I think people are going to see this as a terrorist act. But when the other member asked, well, are we going to be harming people? She said, no, that's not the plan. If we see people like a security guard at the building around the bomb, our plan is to warn them to get away. So it seems like their intention was not actually to hurt people, but send some kind of statement. And we know that the group that they're part of, and Andy can get into this more, is sort of this anti-capitalist, anti-government group.
Yeah, Turtle, take us through this Turtle Liberation Group.
They don't say a lot in the 24-page federal complaint, but what they do say is that in addition to being as the U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California said, in addition to being anti-government, anti-capitalist, but they also had views that appeared to be like pro-Palestinian. It's not clear that, and again, we might see more documents drop that kind of go into this further, but this seems more like a statement than an actualized kind of thing that would target people on New Year's Day. And as we've seen, in fact, almost a year ago, obviously, with New Orleans, it was not that, but clearly the government acted very quickly with an undercover informant when they were going through plans in the desert, and they release some of that video to do these explosions as a kind of test run. So I think what we're seeing and what's going to emerge is obviously different from what appears to be different on its face than what we saw last year and seen in some of these other attacks, and obviously with the political overlay. But the question is are there other details that are going to emerge? And the Trump administration has said, the DOJ, that they're going to go after far left groups. We saw some of that, obviously, in the push into Portland, the statement about Antifa and employing the National Guard. So we won't see the last of it. And then parallel to that, these investigations that are going on as we speak into, individuals that they feel that might carry out violence.
Does it seem like the definition of terrorism is radically expanding here? I mean, we've got this, we've got obviously what everyone thinks of immediately, 9/11, and then we've also got what's happening with narco-terrorism, right? Does the DOJ, I mean, it seems like things are going in a lot of different directions.
I mean, I think that's true, and certainly kind of we redefined in some cases, others argue we haven't, but what constitutes domestic terrorism and this kind of look at what are considered extremist far left groups. Obviously, we've heard a lot about that in the last few months. But to your point, there's kind of overlays when we talk about going after the cartels and narco-terrorism, and then there's international terrorism as well, or their ties to ISIS. So a lot of things are going on at the same time in terms of kind of federal engagement by federal law enforcement in this space.
Let's take a quick listen to a little bit more from that press conference earlier today.
We're always looking. We're always looking for other people who might be plotting or doing this. And let this be a warning. If you can avoid being detected by the FBI or the federal government, if you think you're going to be able to design one of these plots, think again. We have very sophisticated, experienced agents, and we will find you, and we will infiltrate you, and we will arrest you, as we did with this group. They didn't see it coming.
They didn't see it coming, but Andy, big picture here, like how many groups like this are operating in the United States? I know that's an impossible question to ask, and yet it's one that we're all wondering, right?
Well, and I think one thing leads to another, right, Gotti? I mean, you have situations where you look at one group and the communications between that and others. Obviously, in this case, and they didn't spell it out, but there were multiple, in addition to multiple locations that were raided today in Southern California. There was Buffalo and Boston, case out of New Orleans, related to this. So I think what we can expect from the federal government was what we've seen, but obviously they're going to publicize it to send a message, is that there are connections that they get as part of these investigations and kind of that radiate out.
And Liz, I got to ask, what are we seeing in that video? We see some things happening on the desert floor there. Can you walk us through what that video is?
That video was released by the FBI, and it was taken on Friday from a surveillance plane, and it is just moments before the FBI raided this group. These were the people that they ultimately arrested, and they were out there in the Mojave Desert, a few hours east of here, basically practicing their explosives to be prepared for that New Year's Eve attack, and they were able to kind of intercept it. I was just going to say, though, that as far as the organization of this group, the FBI officials did say that these people who they arrested were part of a more radical wing of this far left group. And so it's unclear how really organized the group is, and it seems like the ringleader of this group they arrested was trying to recruit some of those people.
So sketchy.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And coming up, it is a guilty verdict for Brian Walsh, convicted of killing and dismembering his wife. We've got the latest from court.
Sir, 2 minutes.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Holy smokes. Yeah, that was awesome. You guys are, dude, what a busy weekend. Man.
How was it out there?
It was just sad, man. It's so sad. Everybody's just, I mean,
When I saw you out there, I just couldn't help but when I, being at the Times and watching the OJ stuff.
And that's what everybody there was talking about in the neighborhood. Everybody is talking about how this was so similar to what happened during OJ and Menendez. And then just, So, well, thanks, guys.
Are you going back out tomorrow?
I think so. Yeah, maybe there at the jail. All right, thank you. Sure, no worries.
I love being on set with you guys. That was so much fun.
No, it was awesome. All right, so coming up, we've got Around the World headlines. Let's see. It's Brian Walsh. Morocco. City of Safi.
1 minute to see reverse.
See reverse. Edgar Brian Torres, Brian Walsh, Hannah Dugan. Okay. Andrew Geary. All right. And then we're going to Brown, right? Latest with Brown. And then that's going to be Marquise Francis. Okay. Hey, guys. All right. So I don't know if you guys heard that. We are getting to the latest in the manhunt, the ongoing manhunt right now. At Brown University for the killer there that still hasn't been caught.
I got it, Ryan.
So 30 seconds out. What's up with Morocco? Safi, I think you guys had some pretty horrible flooding here. So we're going to be showing some of that in just a bit. Oh, thanks so much, Raphael. We're trying. Let's see here. Yeah, they've got some new footage that's just been released. Am I staying right here?
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we are watching tonight. Out in Morocco, flash floods have killed at least 37 people and more than a dozen others are in the hospital. Torrential rain overnight in the city of Safi, a key port for the country's fishing and mining, and the flooding that they saw there hit at least 70 homes and shops. It swept away cars and it cut off access to the city. Officials have closed schools there for at least 3 days. And President Trump is saying ISIS forces in Syria will be, quote, hit hard after an attack on Saturday killed 3 Americans. This comes as we have learned the identities of 2 Iowa National Guard members who were killed out there. One of them is 29-year-old Sergeant William Nathaniel Howard and 25-year-old Sergeant Edgar Brian Torres. A U.S. interpreter was also killed and 3 other Guard members were hurt. The Defense Department says the attack was an ambush by ISIS. And a Massachusetts jury has found Brian Walsh guilty of killing his wife back in 2023. Prosecutors say he looked up tips on how to dispose of a body, and he was seen on video buying cleaning supplies. Last month, he admitted to getting rid of her body, but said he didn't actually kill her. He could now face life in prison without parole and was sentenced, or his sentencing is set for Wednesday. And the federal trial of Wisconsin judge Hannah Dugan started today. Dugan is accused of helping an undocumented immigrant escape arrest. Prosecutors today arguing she let him out of a back door while misdirecting the agents who showed up in a courtroom for the arrest. The prosecution's case is expected to run through at least Thursday, and roughly 24 witnesses are lined up to testify. And actor Anthony Geary died in Amsterdam on Sunday. Geary is best known for his role as Luke Spencer on General Hospital. His on-screen romance with Laura Weber, captivating audience and stirring a lot of controversy in the 80s. He was 78 years old. And now to the latest in the manhunt in Rhode Island for the person who opened fire at Brown University on Saturday, killing 2 students and hurting 9 others. Now, just in the last few hours, police releasing new images of a new person of interest as officials say they are making steady progress in that case. The FBI is considering this suspect armed and dangerous. They're also releasing a wanted poster offering a reward of up to $50,000 for any information leading to an arrest.
It's starting to get very personal for our community, which is hard. And that's, I think, where we are sort of emotionally in the process.
Such a whiplash moment for that community. The developments coming after a man detained over the weekend was released overnight after officials say evidence no longer supported holding him as a person of interest. Tonight, we're also learning the identities of 2 people killed, 19-year-old Ella Cook and 18-year-old Mohammed Aziz Arkov. Meanwhile, Brown University is canceling classes for the remainder of the semester, along with other local schools in the area, limiting classes and activities. Let's get out to NBC News correspondent Marquise Francis at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. Marquise, the shooter still on the loose. Walk us through the anxiety that the community is feeling right now.
Yeah, Gotti, you're really feeling and seeing a mixed bag. I spoke to students as well as small business owners nearby, and they told me they're feeling scared, anxious, and some of them downright frustrated. Just 24 hours ago, officials had that person of interest they thought was the alleged shooter, but we learned overnight that person of interest has since been released. As you noted, the evidence did not corroborate the facts, and the reality is there remains a shooter at large who shot and killed 2 Brown University students, injuring 9 more at this building just behind me on Saturday afternoon. I spoke to a number of students earlier this afternoon just to ask them about the general vibe on campus and with their friends. Take a listen to what they had to say.
It's going to be hard, walking by these buildings. And I've had classrooms in that in Barrison Halley 166 like 5 times. I'm hopeful that the security, the cameras, everything about like the campus will feel safer, look safer, like the technology will be better than just like on a small note. But yeah, it's a little scary, but I think like the community is really strong and people will, recover.
There's definitely a bit of frustration and a lot of fear. There's a ton of anxiety among all of us students. Especially at the moment that it all happened. I mean, nobody really knew what was going on. And as students, we have our own chats. We all are talking about it all, but there's really not a bunch of communication from anybody from the school, it feels like.
Frustration, fear, anxiety, 3 words that I continue to hear over and over today. That being said, there are people who are finding ways to come together. I do want to move out the way because right behind me, you can see what's really kind of a makeshift memorial at the building, like I said, where the shooting occurred on Saturday. All throughout the afternoon, people have been coming and leaving flowers and really coming together. There was a coffee stand earlier. Folks are trying to figure out a way to come together over such a tragic time. I even want to note they even are passing out flyers for an upcoming vigil tomorrow evening. And so despite a lot of the heaviness, people are trying to figure out ways to come together. Gotti?
Interesting. Now, officials have this new person of interest. How are they putting together the pieces in this case? And what can you tell us about the video that we're seeing?
Yeah, the new person of interest in the video that you showed at the top and likely playing right now, our colleague Erin McLaughlin also sat down with the Attorney General of Rhode Island, and they're really using this video as a plea to the public. If they have any information to come and help and share with them so that can help in that investigation. That being said, if you're looking at the video, you cannot see the suspect or the person of interest's face, which is making things a bit more challenging. Also, the AG said the fact that students are home is actually making the investigation more challenging because they're not able to get as many tips as they normally would. Also, they said they believe the suspect is a man, even though they did not have an age that they have put out there thus far. And at the top, as you mentioned, there is now a $50,000 reward for the ID of the gunman, an arrest, and a conviction, and they're really pleading to the public for help. If you know any information, you go to fbi.gov/Brown University shooting. Gotti?
So eerie to see him walking around knowing that he's still out there on the loose. Marquise Francis, thank you so much. And still to come, Australia reeling from a mass shooting after a father and son unleash a deadly attack against Jewish people. What we're learning as Australian lawmakers vow to make changes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes,
all right.
Position B.
Okay. Now we move to the latest in this terror attack in Australia, in Bondi Beach, which I have never seen video. I hope you didn't see the video that we've seen, but there is one piece of video that shows just remarkable heroism of that guy just kind of sneaking up behind the shooter and taking him down. Hopefully, he makes a full recovery because he was injured in that attack. Let's see. Tiffany, I just want what's best for all of us and no division among all. I agree 100%. Tiffany. Let's see here. What's our time back?
1 minute.
1 minute. Okay. All right. What else are you guys seeing out there? Are we missing anything? I mean, this has just been such a busy, busy day. Let's see here. And it's Clemente? Clemente. Okay.
30.
All right. Yes, very important point. Fluffy, Very important point.
10.
Hey, Tina. Eesh. So glad that they got out of there.
4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Australia is vowing to crack down on guns and anti-Semitism as the country is mourning. It is reeling from its deadliest mass shooting in almost 30 years. Police are calling it a terror attack on the Jewish community, which happened during a Hanukkah celebration yesterday on Sydney's Bondi Beach. This was a scene just moments ago. People are gathering to pay their respects there. At least 15 people were killed. Dozens of others were hurt. A lot of them are still fighting for their lives in critical condition. And among the dead, an 87-year-old Holocaust survivor, a 10-year-old girl, 2 rabbis. It was a French citizen who was also an NBC Universal employee here. And the attack was carried out by a father and son. Officials shot both men, killing the father, wounding the son. Australia's Prime Minister saying late today that the son is in a coma, has not yet been questioned by police. Listen to one witness describe what happened when he heard the shots.
I seen the guy jump out of the car with the gun and he was just shooting down the thing. I seen him jump out with the gun and then I heard bang, 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 bang.
And this is a now viral moment. It shows a bystander taking down one of the suspected gunmen, sneaking up behind him, tackling him to the ground. That man is being hailed as a hero, successfully undergoing his first surgery after being shot during the struggle. His dad is speaking with our team today saying, "This is my son." He cannot remain silent in the face of injustice, and he cannot stand idly by when he saw someone shooting at innocent civilians, men, women, children. And because of the shooting, security is being stepped up at synagogues in New York, in London, in Berlin, while menorah lightings across the country are turning into vigils like this one in Albuquerque and in Cincinnati. NBC News correspondent Sarah James is on the ground in Sydney and has the very latest for us.
Here at Bondi Beach, the Jewish community remains very anxious after the horror attack here during a Hanukkah celebration in which 15 people were killed and dozens were put in hospital. The hero of the day was Ahmed al-Ahmed. He managed to tackle one of the gunmen, wrestle the gun away, and save countless lives. But the truth remains that many people were killed and the security that people feel here in Australia has been shattered. I met briefly with Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles just moments ago. He told me that the government is looking for ways to strengthen the security of the nation's already strict gun laws as one possible way to increase the safety for the Jewish community. He says his arms are around the Jewish community and that of all Australians as they stand in solidarity. But there are those saying that more needs to be done as this community tries to grapple with the extent of what has happened.
Sarah James, thank you. And for more on this, let's bring in retired FBI counterterrorism agent Tim Clemente. Tim, thank you so much for being with us. Australia, I mean, they are already known for their extremely strict gun laws, right? How are they saying this could have been prevented?
Well, I think the only way to prevent it is to find the behavior that leads to this kind of an act. Trying to take the tools away from them doesn't stop the ideology that makes them want to do this. And unfortunately, I read it online that in 2019, the son, the younger of the 2 killers, was looked at by counterterrorism forces in Australia, but after a 6-month investigation, they didn't deem him a continued threat. Obviously, they were wrong. Maybe he went into hiding for a while or stopped meeting publicly with people, but the reality is that obviously he continued to be a threat as he exhibited this weekend in a horrific fashion.
Yeah, hindsight is 20/20, but hopefully they're going to be revisiting what went wrong there. This, of course, happening on the first night of Hanukkah. Are there a lot of concerns about copyrights or copycats or other terror attacks?
There certainly would be, because this type of an incident where you have a group openly outside celebrating the Festival of Lights, celebrating their religion, their faith, is not protected. It's a soft target. And any other events like this, no matter where they are in the world, face the same type of threat. We've seen anti-Semitism become in vogue in the last few years. And this type of attack hopefully will wake people up to the reality that it's a horrific thing and it needs to be stopped. And These men were obviously Islamic extremists. They weren't just Muslims, they were extremists. The individual that stopped one of the gunmen temporarily was also a Muslim, and he did the right thing, where these two were so demented in their beliefs that they only could do the wrong thing.
And speaking of that moment, I mean, how big of a difference do you think that that moment made in the grand scheme of things here?
Well, it didn't make a huge difference because, unfortunately, if the hero had shot the shooter, that would have taken him out of the fight. He was able to return to the fight, go back up onto the bridge to his son, get another weapon, and get back into the fight. And, you know, I can understand why the gentleman that Mr. Ahmed that tackled and took the gun away wouldn't want to kill someone. That's understandable. It's a normal human reaction to something like that. But sadly, that allowed this individual to get back into the fight. I don't know if he was able to shoot anyone else, but he was able to fire another gun until he was finally shot and killed.
Yeah, really appreciate your perspective. Retired FBI counterterrorism agent Tim Clemente, thank you so much for joining us. And coming up, millions are still dealing with the threat of dangerous flooding out in the Pacific Northwest. We're going to have a live report on the ground from Washington. That's coming up.
3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay. Here we go. And then Washington takes us, wow, it's already 5:53. Whew, what a day. Yeah, the Green River levee failed earlier today. Wow, and then they've stopped the breach, right? Okay. And then who are we going to? Steve's out in Washington? Got it. And then we're okay on time, Lise?
90 to
Just as
the wall.
Okay. All right. And then Steve's at, do you know which river Steve's at right now? 90 seconds? All right. So this, here, let me just give you a tour of the studio. So this is a studio in Universal Studios that we come to you live from. This is Steve Patterson's shot right here. We only see a little bit. He's on the Green River. Okay, so he's going to pop up in just a little bit. We're about to do an update on what's happening out there in Washington. There was a levee breach. Fortunately, they have patched it up for now. Like 50,000 people were evacuated. So, yeah, it's still very, very touch and go out there. Again, this is happening at the end of our show. Normally, this would be like the lead story, 50,000 people evacuated, but as you've seen, it has just been such a horrific, violent weekend. So, oh no, I'm so sorry, Kelsey. And that is a beautiful, beautiful hometown. All right, 20 seconds out, here comes the show, so.
15.
Step up. Right here?
Yeah. 5, 4, 3.
All right, welcome back. Over the weekend, people out in Washington state finally got a break from the rain, but that reprieve was very, very short-lived. The Green River levee failed earlier today. It created the potential for life-threatening flash flooding that forced officials to call the evacuation of nearly 50,000 people. But as of right now, crews have finally stopped the flow of water at the site of the breach. Let's get right over to NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson on the ground out there in Washington. So, Steve, the levee breached. Now it's been fixed. Does it look like this is long-term, or is there still a concern?
Yeah, there's definitely still a concern, Gotti. Thankfully, things are a whole lot quieter than they were a few hours ago. As you mentioned, the alerts initially were go now alerts, right? That's like, don't even grab your bag, don't even wait for anything, just pick up your stuff and leave as soon as possible, get to higher ground. That went out to 46,000 people, then they tamped it down to about 6,000 people, then 1,000, and then finally that alert has been allowed to expire entirely because they were able to get on scene and, as you mentioned, sort of plug and dam that levee up very quickly, but it was very scary, especially considering the fact that, you know, we had all these atmospheric rivers last week creating this catastrophic flooding in the area. So this, on top of that, the river behind me, the Green River, could have swelled to something incredibly dangerous. In fact, you can already see behind me that, you know, those trees are not supposed to be obviously that submerged. This could have spilled over into nearby communities like Kent, like Tukwila, where I'm standing. That levee breach is about 3.5 miles from where we're standing. But again, officials were thankfully able to get on scene very, very quickly. We're hearing they're working with the Army Corps of Engineers, making sure everything is sustainable and plugged up well enough. But there still, of course, is that concern just because of how stressed the system is, right? How saturated the ground in this area is. And then the levees are doing all they can to hold up in a tremendous amount of water that we've seen over the last week or so. Gotti?
Yeah, those levees are saving so many properties and potentially lives. How did they stop the breach?
Yeah, so just looking at the video, because again, we're, you know, a few miles away, so I haven't been able to see it myself, but it looks like this heavy machinery was on scene almost instantaneously. I don't want to say it was right away. We have a train going by, so it might be a little loud. But it was quickly, right? And the governor putting alerts out quickly. We've seen some of the video, backhoes. It looks like huge heavy machinery was able to sandbag, plug up some of the structurally unsound parts of that levee. And, you know, if you can see the video, it's not very big, right? This was never a catastrophic breach, but any breach, again, especially when you're talking about this much water in communities that are already submerged, was an incredible danger. It looks like they just acted quickly, got on scene fast. Everybody is really on edge in this area, so it's no surprise officials wanted to make headway really quick. Gotti?
And how does this play into like the already ongoing recovery effort from last week's flooding?
Yeah, it just complicates things because, you know, our crew specifically, I'm looking at the guys that I'm working with right now, they were a few miles up north, right, where a lot of the localized flooding was. This spread it down south and actually into areas that are more around Seattle. So it just shifts the worry in different places. Now, the National Guard was activated because of this levee breach, right? So they're in the area talking about communities that haven't yet been affected. Now we have more weather moving in, predicting, you know, tons more rain over the next few days. Maybe tomorrow night into the next night into the next night, we're going to get a lot more rain. That could complicate, again, an already stressed system where officials had already put a lot of the resources to try to help people there. It shifts that, you know, now to different communities that are looking at some of the same things. And if this whole state is that stressed, how can they be everywhere all at once? Just makes things a whole lot more complicated. Gotti?
Yeah, praying it is not as bad as they're expecting. Steve Patterson out there in Washington for us. Steve, thank you so much. And that's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned to NBC News Now. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody, for watching. What a horrible day. It's been a really horrible day. And tonight, I'm going to be praying for a better day tomorrow. And I hope you guys join us in that. But again, thanks for watching. You can always come here. You can comment. Or you can just watch the old-fashioned way. And you don't have to chat with the rest of us. But I really, really appreciate the chat. And I really appreciate seeing what everybody's thinking. So thanks again. We'll see you tomorrow.